Okay, good morning team. Welcome back to week 2 in the geography classroom. Now, before we start, I want to say a massive thank you to all of you that took part last week. First things first, I was so happy to see all the pictures of you on Facebook that your parents sent me, holding up your maps, singing your songs. Well done, Seth, I liked your song. And learning about where all of the different continents are. Really, really proud of you. Now, I know some of you didn't find it really easy, and I know that you carried on and that you worked hard and that you overcame the things that you found difficult. And for that, I am even more impressed. So big round of applause to you. Now, before we start week 2 session, we need to go through the list of all the things that you're going to need for this session. So, I've got the board. The first thing you're going to need is your map from last week. Okay, so go and get your map from last week. You are going to need a pencil, so a normal writing pencil. You are going to need your trusty colour pencils. You are going to need a plastic plate. Now, I know not everyone will have a plastic plate at home. If you don't have a plastic one, then please can you go and ask your mum or your dad for a normal plate and tell them that you'll be really super careful with it and that you won't be throwing it on the floor. And then the last thing that you're going to need for today is a blank piece of paper so that we can do this week's lesson. Right, pause the video now, go and get the things you need. I'll see you back here in a second. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you've now got everything you need. So you've got your blank map, you've got your pencil, you've got your colouring pencils, you've got your plate, and you've got a blank piece of paper ready for today's session. Now, the first thing that I would like you to do is to take hold of your piece of paper and you're going to fold it in half, like we did last week, long ways, okay? And then we're going to fold it in halfways. So by the time you are done, you should have a piece of paper that looks like that. Okay, that is step 1. So fold your paper in half long ways and then in halfway and then put it in front of you. I'm going to pause the video now. Okay, so you've got your piece of paper now that have got our 4 folds in it. What I'd like you to do next is on one half of that piece of paper, I would like you to write the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so write those numbers down. Okay, I'm going to pause the video. Okay, so now you've written the numbers 1 to 8 on your piece of paper. The reason that I've asked you to do that is because I'm going to try and test your memory to see how much you remember from last week. So what I want you to do is you are going to get 30 seconds to take a really good look at the map that you made last week and to read through all the different names of those continents that we looked at and that really important line that splits the earth in half long ways, okay? So you've got 30 seconds, you're going to pause the video, you're going to spend all of that time really, really, really looking at your map, jogging your memory to see how much you can remember from last week, okay? So pause the video, remember. Okay, so you've had your 30 seconds now to try and remember the names of all the different continents and that really important line that splits the earth in half. What I would now like you to do is to take your map and turn it face down so that you can't see it anymore, okay? Now, what I've done is I've taken the map that I drew last week and I've taken some little sticky labels and I've put them over the top of each of the labels of the continents that were on my map. So you can see I've got the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is to see if you can match the correct continent with the numbers that you wrote down on your sheet. So for example, I'm going to do the first one with you to show you exactly what I mean. So continent number 1, that was the one right down at the bottom of the earth and it was really, really cold there. And I remember that one was called Antarctica. So what I would then do is on my sheet of paper, I'm going to write Antarctica like that, so that I have got number 1 matching the number 1 that is on my map. Okay, now for some of you that are younger, you might find this a little bit harder. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask everyone to pause the video now and have a go at this. And then if you are finding it difficult, press play again and there'll be a little clue that you might be able to use to help you. Okay, this will probably take you a couple of minutes. So take your time, think hard. Remember what we said last week, because these consonants have special names, that means that they need a capital letter at the beginning. Right, best of luck, do as many as you can. And then as I say, if you're finding it tough, don't worry, press play on the video again and there'll be a little clue. Okay. Okay, so for those of you that did need a little clue, don't panic, all right? This is quite hard and it's quite a long thing to try and learn. So you can see that what I've done here, I've put 1 and then ant, because ant is the start of the word Antarctica. 2 is got Oz. 3 is af. 4 is S-O and then am. Then 5 is N-O and then am. Then 6, we've got y. 7, we've got as. And then 8, we've got So use this to help you to remember what the names of the continents are and that little line. Cool. Pause the video and I'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, amazing. Now, I know, I can hear it through the internet that some of you, your brains are hurting. That's okay. Learning things is difficult, and the more times that you go over something, the easier you will find it. Now, what I would like for you to do is I'd like you to find your favourite colour pencil. So my favourite colour pencil is orange, so I always mark my own work in orange. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to peel off each of these stickers one at a time, and I would like you to give yourself a tick if you got the answer right. If you didn't get the answer right, then take your colour pencil and just make any changes that you need to, okay? So, consonant number 1, everyone say it together, Antarctica. There we go. Right, consonant number 2, this one, Australasia. Now, lots of people don't say this right. They get Australia and Australasia confused. So everyone, you're going to say it after me and you're going to say it in a silly voice, Australasia. Okay? Now I want you to whisper it, Australasia. Now I want you to shout it really loud, Australasia. Okay, well done. Right, the third continent then that we're going to look at, Africa. Okay? Give yourself a tick if you got that one right. The fourth one, South America. So that was 2 words, South America. Both have capital letters. Then, number 5, and peel that one off. That one is North America. Well done. Right, this one, Europe. Okay, say that one after me because it's a funny one to say again. Europe. Again, whisper it. Europe. Say it really loud. Europe! And then say it in a funny voice. Europe. Okay, good. Right, number 7 is Asia. And then last but not least, this really important line that splits the earth in half, that one is the equator. Right, give yourself a tick for each of the ones that you got correct. If there's any that weren't quite right, don't worry about it at all, but just make sure that you change it using your colour pencil. And I will see you back here in just a minute. Well done, team. Okay, well done for taking part in that quiz. Now, as I say, I know for some of you that would have been quite tricky. My biggest piece of advice is just to keep practicing. So get your mum, your sister, your dad, your brother, your dog to sit there with their map and to test you and see how many it is that you can remember. That stuff's really important. So definitely the more time and effort that you put into remembering it, the better it will be for you. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our maps from last week again. And we're going to start by looking at this line here. Now, as I said last week, this line is called the equator, but it's actually what we call a line of latitude. Now, in the old days, this is how sailors used to find their way around the earth. They used to use lines of what we call latitude and longitude. Now, today, we're going to add and learn about two really important lines of latitude that we need on our map. And the reason we're going to learn about them is because they show us where the coldest places on Earth are. The Antarctic, right down at the bottom, and the Arctic, right up at the top. Now, this is where you're going to need your plate. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the map down and I'm going to draw these two really important lines on the map that show where the Antarctic circle is and where the Arctic circle is. Then I'm going to show you and then you're going to draw yours. So, you're going to put your map down, you're going to take your plate and you're going to put your plate part way through Antarctica. Now I'll show you this in just a second, so don't panic. And you're going to draw around the top of your plate. You're then going to do the same at the top of your map, like that. So, what I did was I got my plate and I put it on my map and I just drew around it like that. And then I did the same thing at the top of my map. Now I want you to do that first and then we're going to label it, okay? So press pause on the video, use your plate, draw your circle. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully now you've got two circles drawn on your map. Now, we're going to give these two circles their proper names. So the first one, the one at the bottom of the map, is called the Antarctic Circle. So I've written on there, Antarctic Circle. There you go. Now, the other one at the top, we call that one the Arctic Circle. So, the one at the top, we're going to write the word Arctic Circle. So, what you've got is the Antarctic Circle at the bottom and the Arctic Circle at the top. Okay? Draw those on, write those labels on, and I'll see you back here in a second. Hey, welcome back. So, on your map now, you should have the Antarctic Circle drawn at the bottom and the Arctic Circle, which is drawn at the top. Now, the reason that we've drawn those really important lines of latitude on is because they show us where the coldest places on Earth are. And you get to put your map down for a bit because now we're going to start to look at what we're going to learn in week 2 session. And week 2 session is all about the amazing continent Antarctica. Now, Antarctica is amazing for lots of different reasons. So the first reason is because it is the coldest place on Earth. Once scientists there measured that the temperature had gone down to minus 128 degrees. Now, to give you some kind of idea of how cold that is, the days that you have to go to school and your mum makes you wear a hat or she makes you wear gloves, the days when it snows in England, that temperature then is normally about -1, -2. This is minus 128. It is so cold that humans cannot live at that temperature. So today's session, we're going to find out all about this amazing continent. We're going to learn a little bit more about the temperature. We're going to have a look at the different types of plants that you can find in Antarctica, the different types of animals, which I know you will love. And then the last thing, we're going to have a look at if humans can live there, who lives there, are there many people that live there? We're going to have a think about all of those things. So the first thing that I want you to do is to take your plain piece of paper that we started the session with. Now you should have your quiz on one side, you're going to turn it over, okay? And across the middle of the page, I want you to write Antarctica. Now, it's up to you how you do this. If you want to do bubble writing, if you want to make it beautiful, or if you just want to write it in your pencil, that is absolutely fine. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to create your Antarctica across the middle. Okay, see you in a minute. Back. So this is my effort. I've put my Antarctica in the middle, and I coloured it in blue because for me, whenever I see the colour blue, I always think of cold. So I've put Antarctica across the middle. Now, the first thing that we are going to learn is something I've already told you, but essentially it's about the climate. Now, the climate is how much rainfall falls in an area and what the temperature is in an area. Now, I've already told you about the temperature in Antarctica, minus 128. It's freezing. But what is interesting is that Antarctica is actually what we call a cold desert. Now, the reason it's called a desert is because there is very, very little rain that falls there. It's essentially too cold to rain in Antarctica. So what we're going to do is in the first box in the top corner, we're going to create a picture that tells us about the temperature and that tells us that there is very little rain. So the first thing that we're going to draw is a thermometer. Now, I have to say, I am not particularly good at this. So I'm going to make sure that this is as simple and as easy as possible. So my thermometer is going to look like that. Okay? So it's just a simple thermometer. But what I'm going to do to make sure that everybody knows that's what it is, I'm going to write the word temperature over the top. Okay? So we're going to have temperature over the top. Now, the way that I'm going to show that Antarctica is really, really cold is I am going to fill the bottom part of my thermometer with a little bit of blue here to show that the temperature is very, very low. And I'm even going to write on it that the temperature goes down to minus 128, and they measure it in something called degrees Celsius. So that looks like this. So what I would like you to do is to draw your thermometer, to write the words temperature above it, to colour the bottom bit in blue, and then to write that in Antarctica the lowest temperature is minus 128 degrees Celsius. Now this will take you a couple of minutes, take your time. If you need any help, then just ask mum or dad to come and give you a hand, or your brother or sister. I'll see you in a second. Okay, well done. So you should have your thermometer with the temperature, and the temperature being minus 128 degrees. Now the second thing I told you about was the fact that actually in Antarctica, it's too cold for it to rain. So what we're going to draw to show that is a rain cloud, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my blue pencil. So I've drawn my rain cloud just like that. I'm actually going to take my blue pencil and I'm going to draw a big blue cross through the middle of my cloud. So it looks like that. And then underneath it, I'm going to put no rain. So that I know now that the climate in Antarctica has the lowest temperature of minus 128, but also that it has no rain. Now it'd be worth adding a label to that box that says climate. Okay, just like that. So you guys draw your cloud, put your cross through it, write the word climate, and I'll see you back here in a minute. By the way, if you are finding this hard, that's okay, because this type of geography, normally we don't teach until you're at least 12, if not 13. So if you are finding this difficult, and I know, for example, Ava, who's taking part, is only 4, that's totally okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is penguins, okay? Okay, so welcome back. I'm glad that you've got your climate drawings done now, your temperature thermometer, and you've got your cloud. But now we're going to talk about the wildlife, okay? Now, wildlife is the types of animals, the types of birds that live on each continent. And you can see here that I have got this amazing picture of these two very, very beautiful penguins. Now, penguins live in Antarctica, particularly this kind of penguin. So these are called emperor penguins, and they're amazing for lots of different reasons. One, they can live at temperatures of minus 128. There are not many animals or species on this planet that can do that. The second thing that's really cool about penguins is that the male penguins, so the daddy penguins, they are in charge of looking after the babies when they're first born. Now, these penguins, you won't be able to see it on this drawing, but basically down here, they have an extra flap of skin. And that extra flap of skin is called a brood pooch. Now, the brood pooch is where the daddy penguin will put the baby penguin once it's been born to help it stay warm during those really, really, really cold temperatures that you get in Antarctica. Now, the other thing that penguins have is that they've got blubber. Now, blubber is essentially fat, but fat is amazing because fat helps them trap heat in their skin and keeps them warm. And the last thing is, can you see just how shiny their feathers are? The reason they're that shiny is because their feathers are waterproof. So when they go into the sea and they go hunting for fish, which is what they eat, the water actually just washes off their feathers because they're waterproof. So these are amazing animals. Now, what I've done is I've put a video for you to watch if you would like to onto the playlist on the YouTube channel. I will show you how to do that in a second. So if you want to go and watch this video on penguins, it's only about 4 minutes long, but it tells you a little bit more about them than I just have. So go and watch the video on the playlist. Off you go. Right, just quickly, for those of you that weren't sure how to get to the playlist, if you go to Geography Classroom on YouTube and you go to the homepage, then it comes up with video, and then next to it, it says playlist. So you click on playlist. Oh, wrong one. You click on playlist, and then it will come up and show you that there is a link to this amazing video on penguins. Right, enjoy the video, and I'll meet you back here in a second. Hi. Okay, so hopefully you've watched that amazing video on penguins. What I would now like us to do is, in the top box on our sheet of paper, I want you to draw a penguin. Now, I have to say, I'm quite nervous about this. So what I've done is I've Googled a picture of a penguin, and then I'm going to try and draw mine based on that. Now, wish me luck, okay? If you want to colour in your penguin as well, make sure that you do. So remember, on the emperor penguin, they've got the black feathers down the back, they've got white tummies, and then they've got a little bit of yellow on their beak and a little bit of yellow at the top of their chest and round the back of their head. So, off you go, take your time, draw your penguin. Okay, so I found that really hard, but here is my drawing of a penguin. Right, what we need to do is we need to label him, and remember what I said, he's called an emperor penguin. So, write the words emperor, I'll put it above the top, emperor penguin. Okay, so we've got emperor and then penguin. Now, if you wanted to add a few more bits to this, you can. So you could add in the 3 things that I told you about how the emperor penguins are adapted to their environment. So remember, they've got the waterproof feathers, they've got the little brood pooch at the front, which is where he keeps his baby, and they've got that layer of blubber. So I'm going to add that to my penguin now. You don't have to if you don't want to, but just if you think it's interesting, add it on. Okay, there you go. So I've added a label that says blubber, I've put brood pooch, and then I have also put that he has waterproof feathers. Now, I have to say that you shouldn't really pronounce this word as pooch, it's actually pouch, I know that. But it makes me smile that he has a brood pooch that he puts his baby penguin in. Right, so now we know a little bit about the climate, we know a little bit about the animals that live there. It's time for us to have a look at what plants can live in Antarctica. Now, I want you to just take a second to go and look outside. Now, if you have a garden, that's fine. If you don't have a garden, then just do it from the window of wherever it is you're sat. I want you to go and count and see just how many different types of plants you can see. So they'll be different if they've got different colour leaves, if they've got different shape leaves, if they're different heights, if some are really small and some are really big. But give yourself, let's say, 60 seconds, so 1 minute. Go and see how many different types of plant you can see out of your window. Come back to me with an answer. Hi. So you guys can see that my garden is behind me right here. I just went and had a look, and in 60 seconds, I could see 16 different types of plant, literally just out of the window of my house. Now, in Antarctica, there are actually only 2 different types of plant that can live there, okay? Now, the first one is this one. So this is actually called hairgrass. So like you've got on your head, it's called hairgrass. Now you can see that hairgrass is amazing because actually hairgrass manages to grow in all of these rocks. It's also a really, really small plant. And the reason it's so small is because it's really windy in Antarctica. So if it was taller, it would get blown over by the wind. But actually, because it's so little, it doesn't. It gets to live there and be safe. Now, the second plant that lives there, I really like the name of, and that is called Antarctic pearlwort. So say that after me, pearlwort. Now, that one is actually incredibly rare. So rare that I actually struggled to even get a picture of it. But on the whole of Antarctica, there are only 2 different types of plant. So what we're going to do is in the next square on our sheet, we are going to draw the hairgrass. Okay, so I'm going to put the picture of the hairgrass right there. Now, all you're really going to need is a green pencil, and you might want to use your real pencil to draw the rocks underneath. But I'm going to give you about a couple of minutes just to draw the hairwort. No, not the hairwort, the hairgrass. Sorry, ignore me. Okay, so as you can see, I realise I've drawn it on the wrong part of the page, but never mind. We have got our rocks here, and then we have got our hairgrass that I've drawn here. Now, like with our other diagrams, we're going to add a label to it. So I'm going to turn the page over, and next to it, I'm going to write the words hairgrass. Now, I can remember that. It makes me laugh because my hair is quite grassy. But there you go. We've got hairgrass. Okay, give you a minute to do that. I'll see you back. Okay, so this is the last part of today's lesson. We are going to learn about the people, or the lack of people, that live in Antarctica. Now, Antarctica is so cold that human beings cannot live there. A, there's not enough food for them to eat because there's only 2 different types of plant. There aren't very many animals that would eat those plants, so there isn't enough food. And second of all, it's just too cold. So the only people that tend to live in Antarctica, they stay there for short periods of time. They might go for like 2 to 3 months, and they're scientists. Now, the other really interesting thing about Antarctica is that nobody owns it. It doesn't belong to any one country. There are actually 30 different countries in the world that all have research stations where scientists live out in Antarctica. But it's the one place on Earth that everybody shares. Nobody owns it. So that's part of the reason why I like Antarctica so much. Now, what I read yesterday is that at any time during the year, the maximum number of people that live on Antarctica, which is the 5th biggest continent in the world, is actually only 4,000. So there are very, very, very few people that live there. Now, we can see that this guy here, this scientist, he's doing some research and he's digging into the ice, and he's going to be having a look probably at what that tells us about how the Earth has changed over time. Now, I will give a bonus point to anybody who can send me the name of the country that this scientist comes from. Have a look at the flag that's on his arm, and you can see that he comes from a certain country, but what is it? Right, bonus point for the person who can do that. Okay, so in our last box on our sheet, what I want you to do is to draw a scientist. Now, I'm going to let you choose how you do this because I'm not going to lie, I'm going to find this quite hard. But the one thing I am going to do, I'm going to make sure that my scientist is wearing a great big coat to show that they have to be warm. So, take a couple of minutes, draw your scientist. Off you go. Okay, welcome back. So, this is my picture of a scientist. Now, I know he looks a little bit like a lion, but that actually is just the woolly, fluffy hat that he's got on to keep his head warm. Now, I've drawn his jacket in red, and there is a reason that all of the scientists in Antarctica wear red jackets. And the reason is, during a snowstorm, or when they're out travelling across the ice doing their experiments, red is actually the easiest colour for them to be able to see. So it's actually to stop them from getting lost. Now, I'm going to make sure that I label my scientists, and remember I said that there were 4,000 scientists that were found on Antarctica every year. I've spelt scientists wrong. Oops. Scientists, sorry. So there are 4,000 scientists that live there every year. So add that label, and then we're almost at the end of our lesson. Okay, so a massive well done for completing week 2 in the geography classroom. So we now know all about the climate in Antarctica. We know about one of the different animals that lives there and how that animal has adapted to the climate. We know about the fact that there is hair grass, and that grass is again adapted to the climate. It's really short and it's really small, and it's actually really tough that it can even grow there. And we know that only 4,000 people live there, and that people that live on Antarctica are scientists. So I really, really look forward to seeing you next week for lesson 3. Don't forget that this week I'm running a competition as well, because the geography classroom needs a logo, and I would love for you guys to design that logo. Now, I said it in the video the other day, but I will send you this amazing book as a prize for the person that creates the best logo. The deadline is to get those sent to me by Sunday, please. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed today. I look forward to seeing all of your pictures on the internet holding up your work. I will see you soon.